Hey friends, buckle up for a new episode of Soul Dive. You can join Christina King and myself, Chris McCann. If the time's come for you to begin or even accelerate your inner exploration, the show might be for you. Each week, we explore the meaning of life, discover what our purpose is, or just exploring how to be happy. Soul Dive has got you covered. So join us and our guests, of course, and listen to insightful stories about where they've been and perhaps get help navigating your own path. Together, we will soul dive into the deep end of consciousness.
Hi, Chris.
Hey there. How are you, Christina?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
I am well. The same as excellent? Probably pretty close.
Yes.
It is. I have a question for you.
I might have an answer. Go ahead.
We don't necessarily have a topic today.
Oh, I already have one, but go ahead.
Oh, you do?
A little bit. I'm going to bring something up that's kind of on my mind.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Cool. Do you ever get tired of just working on yourself?
All the damn time. Did you hit that wall? Curious?
Kinda. And I was like, man, am I manufacturing shit just to have something to work on?
Yeah, it does reach that kind of point. It's like, how broken am I? Am I just creating shit just to keep working? What am I doing here? No, I get it. And I'm sure everybody else can at some point also relate to that somewhat. Yeah. You know what I have to do? I actually have to kind of leave it for a good week or two to break that. So you're just probably going to have to party hard with yourself and not the spiritual parties that you're used to having where you're communicating with all kinds of stuff and in different dimensions and flying around. I'm talking just really be human for a good couple of weeks. I've definitely had to do it. It's definitely a very slate wiping clean gesture for yourself. Highly recommended. Now, it's very mental because you feel like, oh no, I'm not doing anything for my future, but actually you are. You know what I'm saying? By taking that break from yourself, from that kind of activity, it's actually gifting yourself more for the future.
Yeah, you might be right. There's been a lot of work this summer. It's like every other weekend I'm going somewhere and doing something with some group of people. And it hit me on Sunday as we came out of ceremony. I was like, am I just making up stuff to have something to work on when I could really just enjoy? Done a lot of work. And maybe I've suffered enough.
For now. And here's the interesting thing is if you just kind of drop, then you're not dropping yourself. You're not failing yourself by giving yourself some space from actively in recovery of yourself, whatever your mission is titled. It's not that you're cheating yourself or that you're not doing what you're supposed to. It's a mental thing that the pause is actually not failing, sometimes when you have time off of work and you're like, wow, I have a lot of time to get things done. And then it doesn't go that way at all. Basically, you just party the weekend away, or you do other things that weren't the things that you had intended to do or accomplish while you had the extra time. And then you feel bad about it when you're going back to work. That's kind of that feeling that you're going to have to shake if you sign out for a week or two.
Yeah, it's just there's nothing. And I know to say that I want to do nothing is counterintuitive because do nothing. But nothing feels really good to me right now.
I would recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, if we pop in for a couple of podcasts, I don't think that would derail you. But then again, I'm not you. I'm hoping.
No, it wouldn't derail me. I love working with other people for sure. But it's like, wow, like when thinking about like my relationship with my oldest two boys as an example, right? And I walked into this past weekend with the intention of kind of honing in on self-forgiveness. And I'm like, man, like, I think I'm good. I think I'm done with that. Like, I'm good. Like, you're forgiven, whatever. Let's just go play.
Makes sense. And
all right.
I hope you listen to that voice because it's just as right as the other voice.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like the mind just kind of gets in the way of just being able to just sit. So yeah, that's my project for the next, let's call it the next week before we fly to Chicago, is nothing. I have fun calls with Friday with some people that I met, a fun call tomorrow, my friend Mary Liz, another client on Saturday. And like, yeah, that's that. So that's it. I'm done fixing that part. There's always going to be some refinement. Right. And particularly as we participate in plant medicine work and other work, you know, it's subtle at this point and nuanced.
You know what the fun part about this all is?
What?
The way you know it's time to kind of come back to yourself is when you're led. You have to surrender enough to be led back. I am a ferocious meditator, usually. I've had periods of time when I was led to meditate for 4, 5, 6 hours every Saturday. For some reason, I needed that spiritual nutrition at that moment. And I did it. I sat the whole time and I was in meditation. I wasn't even cognitive most of the time. I don't even know what was happening, but that's what my body needed. I've been through periods where I meditated everywhere I could, in the car if I had 5 minutes. If I was in a waiting room, I would just snap into a quick one. And then I've had periods where I'm like, no, I don't want to meditate and I don't feel like I want to. I don't feel like I need it right now. And there were periods of time, like maybe a week or two, where I would not meditate at all. And so when you go from like being hungry for a 6-hour meditation to no thanks, I mean, that's just phases to me. And it's just phases of spiritual work on the back end that's happening. So again, I would let you be led back to whatever work you need to be doing, and don't feel like, oh no, I should be cognitive of the work that I should be doing. It's fine.
Yeah. Like this whole thing of self-importance or having to appear a certain way or check certain boxes to make sure that as you walk out of the house that you're in a position to be able to serve. Like, no, I'm just going to live.
Yeah. Yep. Yay. Until there's a feeling to do otherwise, do that.
Right.
That's what you should be doing.
And those feelings come when they come, we listen to them. But every time I listen, life just gets better and better.
That's right. That's right. You're not doubting yourself at all right now, but I hope that you will believe those words even more soon.
Yeah. Well, I think like just me kind of getting to this point now, because it's been an intense couple of years of this type of work. Let's call it 2 solid years of like deep inner work.
Oh, yeah.
And by no means have I arrived there. But it's like, wow, taking the pressure off of that and not putting the cart before the horse. Like, what do I do about work? What do I do about helping people? What do I do about that? And like, well, no, just get to where I am now. It'll be fun. So I'm going to go hang out with Dr. Dan for an hour tomorrow.
Ooh.
Yes. Yeah, he's a magical man. I am.
Magic man.
He's something else. It'd be nice to have him on at some point. I'm sure we could. Absolutely. So you had a topic today.
Not particularly a topic, but something that was on my mind. First thing that was on my mind.
Bring it, Mama.
Totally different topic, kind of what we're talking about, is I went to my friend's champagne kickoff launch party on Sunday. My friend is French. She lives on the canals of Venice Beach. And I'm so happy to be a part of that experience because I've been coming to her healing champagne events. She's a champagne junkie for a couple of years now. And I even in kind of the testing group, the pilot test for what kind of champagnes tasted the best, because she was getting her like kind of her profiles together so that she could create her own line. And so she did. She's living her dream. Yes. And I'm so proud of her. And so I went to that event, and there's always a healing aspect of it because it's a bunch of women. The champagne is called Exigent. I'm so excited. She's going to be doing an affiliate program soon. I'm going to be a part of that because I really believe in it. It was absolutely delicious. And now I know what to give as gifts to pretty much everybody now.
Awesome.
Your household included. I still need to come up to your house. I haven't forgotten you. So when I was there, we had to pair up with people we didn't know, and we got sorted. Then we had to go through some questions together. And these questions were designed to bring out the healing in you. And buddy, they did. First of all, when we came in, we chose a ribbon, a color of a ribbon that was tied around our wrist, right? Then when it was time to group up, we had to find the other two women who had our same color. So I went and I found them. So there's three of us, the groups of three everywhere. And so we start going through the questions, and turns out all three of us have lost our father in the recent past. All three of us. Second thing is this butterfly kept bothering us. It was this other girl's dad. She was like, butterflies symbolize my dad. He just died 3 months ago, right? And this butterfly is just like uncharacteristically just flying around us. So that was another thing. Third thing is every single one of us saw the moment that our fathers transitioned. All three of us. And we all had an experience when this happened. Coincidence? I think not.
No.
Nope. So then we started to talk about spiritual things, you know? We're all three very highly intuitive. They wouldn't call themselves psychic intuitives, but they are both. One of them works in a line of work where she does do intuitive writing for people, for their businesses. And the other girl, she does a lot of featuring of hotels around the world. But anyway,
okay.
So we all were very interested in spirituality. And so I started to talk about the book that I am starting to write. Did I ever tell you about that?
No.
Okay. So it's interesting. I've been working with a psychic medium mentor, Kelly Clare. She was on Ghost Adventurers. And one of the last things that I felt compelled to do was I saw on Netflix the documentary with Richard Ramirez, The Night Stalker.
Yeah. Okay.
Have I not talked to you about this?
You have talked to me about this, but not about a book.
On the podcast. Did I talk about it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So did I talk about interviewing him?
Yes.
Well, I'm compiling that into a book. And I kind of gave up because I don't feel as if I kind of validated myself. I didn't provide enough evidence for me to be convinced of my ability. So I'm telling her this, and she's like, that's funny. I am interviewing with two people who are in forensics and investigation about two serial killers on Tuesday and Wednesday this week. They're not psychic mediums or anything like that, but they have done extensive research about these two serial killers. Anyway, just bringing that up. All of these coincidences in my life. And then we have this coming up. She actually met with them today. She did drop me a couple of sentences about it. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. This is really going to be big. I don't know if they're going to choose me. They seem like they're going to choose me as their writer, but they already have a producer and all this stuff. So she said, I haven't talked about you yet, because she was like, oh, well, I'll definitely mention you. And it wasn't as a favor to me. It was to make it more flavorful, to make it more, I don't know, like if they wanted to talk to the person. Right. So that brings up two things. First of all, I'm damn confident, even though I don't believe in myself. Like, I'm like, yeah, sure, bring it on. But at the same time, I'm like, what if I just messed this whole thing up? Now, I did tell her, I said, you don't have to mention me. I mean, if I happen to come up, that's fine. But it is kind of a weird coincidence that all this happened within a couple of days of each other.
Right.
So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to you, because I don't know exactly what my question is, but I don't know. That's just been on my mind, this whole things that are supposed to happen kind of happen. And I do believe I was supposed to meet these two women for sure. And then that brings up how we met, which is you randomly. Oh, no, it was a total coincidence, but I didn't think it was at the time. We both subbed, or what did we do for Helen?
Yeah, we were like guest moderators or something for Helen.
Yeah, guest moderators in one of her workshops. And then we happened to have no pair ups for the last part of it. And then we all got to chat and met you. And then the next day you were on my website and signing up for 2 hours with me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, I've been thinking about you. And you're like, whoa, wait, you're that Christina? I just think it's cool. All the things that happened in life. And, you just really have no control over it.
It is cool. So, questions. There was no question.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Sitting with it. And it's like, I see you in the middle, just a sense of like you elevating a little bit. So you're, others are just receding into the background. And while that's happening, and they're happy and joyful about it, right? It's almost as if they're allowing for you to take another curtain call, and that sort of visualization. So it feels like a synchronization to help you step into this aspect of your knowing and trusting yourself.
Yeah. Thank you. I ain't afraid. It's just, I think it's my mind that's afraid, but my body, no reaction. It's just like, yeah, this is what's supposed to happen.
No, the mind just gets in the way, right?
The mind always gets in the way, right?
Yeah. It's like, okay, mind, I see what you're doing, right? But yeah, I don't need that right now.
Yeah. When I met with Sonia Choquette, very, very great psychic medium, I remember she said, oh, you'll do similar work to what I do. And I said, yeah, well, and I said something along the lines of, yeah, I'm trying to understand what I can do and my abilities or whatever. And she goes, oh, no. Once you try to understand, you've left the arena already. And I'll never forget that.
Oh, once you try to understand, you've left the arena already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I try not to do that anymore. I mean, there are things you have to understand, but what she was referring to is you really have to trust in yourself, and that you can't really understand it. We're just humans, right? I can't even explain it. So when people have asked like, well, how do you do it? I'm just like, I just do it.
Yeah.
Same thing. I don't understand it, or I've left the arena if I even try. So
when someone asks you what you do, Like, hey, what do you do? What do you say?
I used to not say it, but now I just say, well, I'm a psychic medium. And yeah, I mean, there's dead people, but for the most part, I kind of connect people with what they really should have done in their lives. And then they start to do it. That's what I say. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not very glorious, but I try to, I just try to say what I do for people, instead of like what I can do. I think that's the logical way to go. What about you?
I think I tried something on Saturday, and it wasn't like it was premeditated, but it was another coincidence, if you will. So it was Friday night. So Friday we get to Tierra Madre in Escondido, and that night, rather than do the sweat lodge like we did last time we were down there with Adam, we had a cacao ceremony, and it was part of another event that was happening on the farm. So we blended groups. And I'm sitting there, and this woman walks up to me, and she's like, "Hello, my name is blah." And she's like, "I just felt like I wanted to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay, this will be fun. Let's see where this goes." Because there are no coincidences, so I was just super interested. And she was talking about her spiritual journey, and she's probably early 60s, feels about right. And she was there for the cacao ceremony and had heard about it because she knows this woman, Jess, who kind of runs the farm, if you will. And we started talking, and she had started asking about plant medicine work and not necessarily knowing anyone that was in that area that could help. And I said, well, let me run back up to my teepee, and I'll bring something down before the night's over. And I had one of Carlos's books that I brought with Carlos, Dr. Warder. And I brought one of his books with, only one, because I saw it sitting on the counter as we were walking out Friday morning. I'm like, I should just take this just in case.
Of course you saw it there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. And loved the book. Right. So I gave it to her, and we're going to spend some time on her son and I on Saturday. But these little coincidences are glorious reminders or signposts, if you will, that are there to acknowledge that we're on a good path. I'm going to say the right path, because there isn't a right or wrong path per se. There's like a good path is where you start to notice these synchronicities, or you find someone that's sitting there, by themselves on the beach, and you feel called to go say something to that person. You do, and then you hit it off, right? So I'm really enjoying those synchronicities and those little pings to connect with people. I'm very, very rewarding. So certainly there are no coincidences, and I'm very much looking forward to more of these types of interactions with people. It feels really good to connect in that way. We did spend, Meredith and I went down with our friend Robin and Kara and Robin's dad, Bob, which was amazing, along with probably 10 or 11 others that were in the teepee participating in ceremony. And it was just stunning. And that work is not easy, right? And it comes around, and I feel like, for me, I have like a stomach reaction to it after so many times and indulging in what's being passed around. But what struck me is that Adam's friend, Sleepy Eye, who is, I believe, Lakota and resides in South Dakota. His friend was in town, and Adam was showing him how to manufacture aircrete and to build like cinder blocks to build homes for his people that are on the res up there that are literally freezing to death in the winter. And he's trying to get ahead of it this winter. And so he's kind of a super chill, like probably 45-year-old, 50-year-old guy. Wearing a hoodie, smoking cigarettes, and just like super laid back, and like had that surfer stoner dude persona. And as we're getting ready to go into the teepee on Saturday night for ceremony, I noticed that he's sitting at the head of the teepee. And I was like, oh. And then Adam was the drummer. And Ricardo, our friend, was to my right and to the left of Sleepy. And he was the cedar man. And I was like, okay, this is a new twist. See, the first time, Adam had not a lot of support with the singing and the drumming, and he pulled everything together on his own and gave each of his roles. This time he had a co-conspirator, plus Ricardo, who's now done a few of these with Adam. And to see the friendship and the bond that those two men have established over time, and how powerful of an experience it is for them when they're responsible for the ceremony and not dancing, but singing and drumming and praying. Fuck me. Like the amount of energy and love and support that filled that teepee over those 12 hours. Incredible. At one point during the ceremony, Sleepy went outside and he was going to call in some of the ancestors. It was after midnight for sure, but you don't really have a sense of what time it is. We're on cosmic time then. And interestingly enough, like at that point is when my stomach started to settle a little bit and I started to hear things, see things like clearly. And as I'm sitting there and I start to hear voices from the outside, or you see like things, kind of sense things moving. And then it's almost like this orchestra of voices and language that you don't necessarily understand. That's just supporting this effort. It's incredible. I mean, those guys, like, they might come across as simple farmers if you run into them on the street. These are strong men. And the women, Arena and Jess and others, incredibly strong women. I'm really excited to go back down there again in September, and we're going to start to really expand this work. But what struck me is the word alliances and forming alliances and supporting each other. Like, Adam's going to come up tomorrow with his daughter and we're just going to talk, right? So he's driving 2.5 hours to come up and then he's going to drive home probably same night just to spend time and talk about how to do this. And his daughter is just, like watching the love that those two have for each other is an absolute privilege. But, it got me thinking long and hard about, friendships and relationships that I have. And one thing that came up is these two guys were just boom, banging on the drum and screaming and yelling and praying and conjuring ancestors. Like, wow, who do I have in my life that I could do that with? The good news is that I could think of a handful of guys, right? But I want more than a handful of guys.
Of course you do. And you should have that.
Yeah.
You deserve it.
Well, I need it.
Yeah.
They need it. We need it. To, as what Carlos would call it, to keep holy company. And I don't know, Christina, I feel like things are getting much simpler for me.
That's great.
It's like I want to get out of my own way.
Yeah. I think it's time to ride the wave.
Yes. So stuff like the community on Slack, done, going away. The Instagram takeover, going away in 2 weeks. It's all going to go away.
Wow.
Yeah. That feels really good.
That feels good to me too. You're being positioned, and I think you might think you have some control over it, but you don't really.
No.
You're positioned.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. When you're saying that, and I'm getting the
oh, I just got it too. Yeah. I right when I said it, it's like, yeah. Like, okay.
Right.
Not that I thought I was wrong when I said it, but thanks for the support.
Yeah. Alliances is something that really stood out with these guys and watching them. And I don't want to go off the grid in that sense, right? It's not my role, not in this lifetime. And it's not to take away from what I can do to support people while also being supported, or what Adam or Sleepy or anyone who's, native or indigenous that has the ability to help support people, or Dr. Warder or anyone. Everyone's got a role and, can do these things really well. What I loved about how Adam and Sleepy Eye were talking about the work, right? And they'd bring things up, and it was always referencing or acknowledging in a very ethical way their teachers, right? And their grandfathers, if you will. And it didn't take away from the experience. In fact, it actually made them seem even more powerful because of the level of humility with which they carry themselves and honoring their agreements that they've made, both spiritually and energetically, and amongst each other, in a human way. It feels good. And it's an absolute privilege to even just be remotely involved with them and the work that they're doing, let alone being in a position to really help.
What strikes me is the fact that Adam's coming all the way up there with his daughter. And that is a testament to both his character and your character. I think that's what is most beautiful about that picture for me.
Yeah. He's a good one.
And likewise, you as well. Like, it must be damn worth it for him to drive all that way for you.
For us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This gentleman, Ricardo, who I struggled with a little bit last time, but because of my own pathology, not his, we spend quite a bit of time talking, and would make eye contact just in a very knowing way. And it's like, all right. And as Meredith and I are getting ready to leave on Sunday, he's like, we're friends now. And I was like, yeah, like really, like friends, allies. It's cool to know that you can pick up the phone and call someone and they're going to be there. And this happened with certainly, in the work with Dr. Warder, the work that I did here pre-COVID with, the men's group and some wonderful friends that I have here, of course. But that network is getting big, and it's inclusive across all proclivities, preferences, socioeconomic statuses, backgrounds, ethnicities. There's a gentleman that goes by Crow, who lives there. And when I first showed up, and I think I shared this with you, and he's like, your name's Chris? He's like, I've been waiting for you. He's like, that guy, right?
You totally told me about that. I remember.
Yeah. And we found that, that connection to have been really helpful. And his daughter was born the night that we did that particular ceremony. And so, that was neat how she was brought in.
I very much remember that.
Yeah. Now the baby's here. She's so freaking cute. Just huge cheeks and has a personality. And she's 3 months old, 4 months old, something like that. Just remarkable. And we connected, and it was good to see him. There's a lot of love there.
Okay. Can I say something?
Of course. She
is a little spirit to be reckoned with, for sure. I will tell you that she is embodying one of the ancestors who's here again, cycling back through.
Yep.
It's a grandmother. It's a great grandmother of sorts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not lost on anyone. And it's the sign she came in under, the timing of it, the fact that we had ceremony that night, and she came in at a certain time during the ceremony, has a certain name. This is why we have hope in tomorrow.
Yeah. Wow. I'm getting that very clear right now. And I feel spirit stepping forward, telling me this, like as a group, kind of that area, that tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the women that are coming forward right now.
Yes.
And it's almost as if, even though that soul is now in the body, it's 3 months old in our time, but I feel like I can communicate with that soul still. It's like still very anchored in the other side at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't know why that came up and why I felt the need to tell you that.
Ask, why did it come up? What does she want us to know?
Yeah. Good idea. This is for you to know that everything you thought was correct, and because you're going to be in this community, so you will know her as she grows up as a human, and obviously she's human, but it's also kind of like she's desperate to be recognized as that person. Like the soul is like, that spirit is desperate to be like someone to say, hey, I think it's this person. Now you would know that person because you don't have that, like you're not familiar with the lineage, but they're like waiting for one person to say, I think that's this grandma, the specific person, but she's not telling me it's a grandma name. They don't call her grandma. They call her like by her name, which is the tribe name, obviously. Let me think. Is she going to tell me that? Are you going to tell me your name? I just keep getting dark horse, but I feel like that's not the name, but it's like an association animal with whatever this woman embodied her other time around.
Okay.
But it's a positive one. It's not like,
oh yeah, no, there's
dark horse as in a bad thing. Something about dark horse. But anyway. So yeah, when it comes up, they hope that everyone rejoices and that everybody knows that they're right.
So Crow and I have a very interesting connection. This girl's father.
Yeah.
And he's just the cutest thing. In this moment, of this trip around, and he and Meredith was sitting there at the picnic table, and we were getting ready to say goodbye. And he sits down. He's like, "What are we doing here?" And he's like, "Let's play a little ping pong. What are we doing here?" And I stared at him and just looked into his eyes. And there was, some things and some visions that traded place, but he wanted words. And so we defaulted to, how we're, committed to helping support, what they're doing there, and we'll play a role and all that. And he's like, okay. He's like, but you're in your head. He's like, I need you to get out of your head. He's like, I want you to talk from the heart. He's like, what's going on with you? He's like, because last time you and I talked, and this is what you told me. He's like, and now I see that you're kind of where I was. And so he put his right hand on my heart, and he grabbed my hand and put it on his heart. And then we went third eye to third eye. And he's over here moving stuff around. And I came out of that little session feeling much lighter. Meredith, and I looked over at Meredith, and she was crying. And she's just said how vulnerable I was and how willing I was to have that type of a conversation with another man, even though she was sitting there. Right. Yeah, it was really interesting.
You were telling me the story. I was like, well, that's pretty damn vulnerable. I was thinking the same thing. I was just like, wow, two men are just like, let's connect spiritually. and you did it.
Right. Yeah. It was beautiful, very supportive. So I'm looking forward to just exploring that relationship. And some others that are there. It's not easy being a man right now either. And particularly if you're someone that wants to have, meaningful relationships and to move beyond the superficial stuff. So that feels good. And that's where a lot of this attention is going to go.
Excellent.
Dark horse.
Yeah, I don't know. They've backed off a bit.
Yeah. It's remarkable. Like just the spirits and the ancestors that were like, I could hear them talking and in the teepee, like, and it's coming from all directions. Right. So then I was like, well, is it the acoustics in here? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that's part of it, but that's part of also the drumming and the conjuring, if you will. But it was coming from out there. And then I heard a voice coming through very clearly and it was like Dolby Atmos surround sound. It was like a voice. And I was like, oh, I'm like, are we doing this? Like, you want to like talk? And there was dialogue. It was like, this is what hearing is like. Like, you can't mistake that for something. But that was some interdimensional stuff there. That was really incredible. I remember also at one point, because the work that we did isn't necessarily hallucinogenic. I think we just taken enough to where your eyes are open the whole time. So you're perceiving things, but there's like some shifting that's going on. And at one point I was just staring out the door, and this is after first light. And my entire mindscape went like off white. And I saw like these sonar like things coming through, like, and it was like how a lighthouse would look, but it was like the rings like Aquaman would have in there. And I was like, where the hell did that come from? Like, like what is going on here? And it's just remarkable. And like you're literally, you might be in this teepee, but you're going in between different levels and layers. And like that thing was hauling butt that night.
Wow.
Yeah. We have all these ancient ways that have just been passed down for tens of thousands of years that are the perfect antidote to this collective amnesia that we're suffering.
Speaking of that, I've just had kind of a dialogue with myself, which is not really with myself, but I'm sitting here listening to all of the ease of communication. To me, it's the ease of communication to all these spirits where you were. Mm-hmm. So I asked him, like, well, why are these spirits just so chatty and so easy to come through and communicate, whereas other communities don't have that luxury or they're not coming through or whatever? And so kind of heard back the answer. It's like, well, they're the ones that are always included in the conversation. And in other cultures and other groups, they feel like they've exited the conversation. And while they might do some fleeting private words to maybe someone who's passed on, they don't necessarily remember the lineage for a long time. You're only affected by the ones that you lost in your lifetime and closer to whatever your age you are in your old age, And so there's also another element of mourning and grieving. And while it's sad, and by the way, Christina, do not know how Native Americans grieve. I don't know how that goes, but I do know that they do honor and speak with ancestors on the regular and still have them a part of the conversation. I do know that part, but I don't know how much sadness or whatever they do, their rituals, and if it's different for each tribe. I don't know that, but they're telling me that it's a different story. Like they just know they're in different form now. Whereas we're like, well, they're gone.
Yeah, they're definitely not gone. I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
I know that. But only recently have I really started to dig into my genetic like history here as well. So now I've got pictures of great greats, and it's interesting just to think through like that aspect of coming into being and the folks they had to meet and procreate, and it's just really interesting. And I'm looking forward to spending time in that community and helping them. It feels really good with what the Red Earth movement is and what they're attempting to do at Tierra Madre. And, at no point do I even feel like I should be doing what Adam does, right? That's not my role. My job there is just to bring people to the fireplace and help support, and that feels really good. Is there anything else those fine ancestors want me to be aware of?
No, but I can actually see them.
Mm.
Just give me a minute. Is it true that women are the ones that make all of that happen?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Like in their communities?
Yes.
Like without women, they're gone, like they're lost. But without men, they'd be all right?
Yes.
That's what they're telling me. I don't know. I just like them hanging around. Yeah, they're just kind of hanging around. Wonder how long they're going to be around.
Enjoy them. It's the women run the show. I had the opportunity to speak towards the end of the ceremony after breakfast, I think, or after they brought in the ceremonial food. And whatever my words were, they must have been good words. And Jess, who was a very woman, and I looked up, and she was smiling at me. I was like, wow. Like a smile from her just means an awful lot. Right.
As you started to speak about this experience, they chimed in. And they want you to know, don't pull your punches. Don't feel as if even though you say you're not an outsider, don't act as if you are an outsider. Jump into it. You're very welcome because you are a piece of the greater good that the group, that is like the group theme almost. Like in their theme too. They all share it, So Ooh. Don't question yourself. Just jump in and just act as if you're one of everybody, because you are.
Incredible. Thank you.
Nice of them.
It was very nice.
I knew they were sticking around for something. You know what? They're leaving now. I can feel that. I was just like, they're just hanging out. Well, they're doing it.
Yeah, that's good. We're going to do the next one in September. What's really interesting is that Robin and Meredith, independent of each other, both came to me and said, we should do the next one here, not Arizona. So there's just something special about that land.
I'm feeling like you need to be involved in like a sector of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like involved in like leading something.
Okay.
Not just as a full-on guest.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
Like you need to cycle through some sort of program with somebody or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll definitely all make sense for sure. It doesn't sound like it's not going to happen or something I wouldn't do. It's just trying to figure out like what would that actually be. But as Adam,
and this is just not from the girls are gone, but it's like, we'll tell you. I heard that voice very clearly. It's like, oh,
Yes.
we'll tell you.
Yep. Yes. And when they want to tell me, I'll hear it.
Yeah.
Yes. So I trust that I'm not even going to worry about it.
No.
Right.
And you're not in control.
Nope. I'm totally fine with that. I just want to play and help people live a better life.
Yeah.
Do that in September. And I don't know. I'm pretty excited about whatever the hell is going to happen next.
Wow. So that's going to be near you?
Yeah, we'll do that back down where we were.
Oh, okay. So in California.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would just say somewhere south of here.
I gotcha. Where you're going, yes.
Yes. Yeah, it's just you head south and you go straight into the stratosphere. It's the trippiest thing. I love it. Yeah, I am. So we have before we part ways, we have quite a few people now that want to come on, and I sent you the list of some folks. So I've got some travel coming up. We can do these from wherever, but we're going to get back into guests like as soon as next week.
Great. I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready too.
And the space has magically become open, which means this is very slated to happen from them. So they're lining all the ducks up for us.
Yeah. Once we get the backyard done here, we have like a small sinkhole problem underneath the AstroTurf. Ooh. I want to, and I was testing out some of the cameras today, and I think we could actually record a couple of these outside.
Yeah.
And just change the background. Because I was looking at all the videos over like before last weekend, and like my backdrop has changed like so many times, like all up and down the West Coast. Like, it's fun.
It's pretty fun.
Good stuff, Mama.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, and I feel this conversation needed to happen.
Yes.
And it's nothing profound or mind-blowing, but I think it's maintenance for your mind. As in whoever's listening, and for us as well.
Yeah. Yes. All right, Mama.
Thank you. Love you.
Thank you. Love you too.